Hey everybody, Brendan here from TAT. Today I'm doing a review on Autel's latest scan tool. So this is the MaxiSys Ultra S2. So this is the updated version. The Ultra you may be familiar with, been around for a few years. While this may look very similar on the outside, slightly bigger screen, internals have changed, but you can go look up those specs. I'm happy to say that in the couple of weeks that I've been playing around with this in the workshop as an Ultra user myself, there is a lot that has changed under the hood on this thing software-wise. We also have some hardware changes, so we've got the updated MaxiFlash VCMI 2, so that's going to cover you for anything that's coming at you, whether it be diagnostics over internet protocol, CAN FD, so the latest protocols, that'll take care of it. A remote expert, oscilloscope, multimeter, built-in waveform generator, you name it. So there's a lot going on there, but the tool itself, so we're looking here at the topology that you'll be faced with when you're dealing with most cars, and I'm glad to say there are heaps of new menus that are in this. So you haven't come here to hear me talk about the specs, you want to see me use the thing. So let's jump in and I'll show you some of the features that stood out to me as I've been trialing this new S2.
I'm going to go into live data, take a look in here. It is a huge build-up of what the tool is, whether it's going to be useful in the workshop. So you may have heard me in the past saying a certain brand tool that I love for graphing data. Times have changed. They have made some huge advancements in this that I've been playing around with, and it seems like every menu I go into, they've made something that you were thinking to yourself previously, wow, that'd be good if a tool could do that. So I'll try and run through a few of them, but there are so many changes that have happened here that makes this an amazing tool for analyzing data, and as I often am, graphing data. So some basic things. We're looking at text-based data at the moment. Obviously we'll have a huge data PID list here. We can now change them all into graphing if we wanted, or we can put them all into this bar graph type mode. I am a fan of when we can have something that can give us a max value. So there is also this gauge type 1, and when I get on the accelerator, you'll see it's getting my max. So if we're looking at something like boost pressure or MAF or something and we're driving, it's nice to have a max there so that we're not having to look back at it. You'll notice that fairly responsive. That's a function of the ECU itself, but if we wanted to get better refresh rate, we can go to show selected and we could bring up whichever ones we had highlighted there to have something that is extremely responsive. So I'll get back out of this and go to show all to bring them all up again. Let's just use these so that we've got something that we can move data around with. So some of the cool things that we can do now, we could graph merge, we can group. Let's go with group first. So that's a pretty cool one. So let's say I've got these data PIDs that I've chosen, I've been analyzing them, and I might have to go out and do something. It's a real big hassle, I find, when you want to get back in to then grab these pieces of data again on some scan tools. Well, we can now create groups. So we're going to call this, we'll just call it throttle for the sake of our demo here, and we've now got those. We can edit, delete, but now when I get back out, I go out, I do my things, I clear codes, I go into another module, whatever, I can come back into my live data and I'm going to be able to select various groups. It depends how many groups I want to make there, and that's fine. We can also get rid of that group once we're done. So if we get back into our full data here, let's just grab our guys again. So as I said, we can do graph merging. Now the cool thing I noticed is we can actually have multiple graphs that we're merging here as well. So let's say I want to have those two up there, and obviously it's possibly odd data that you may be, but hey, we could be looking at throttle. So we can now have multiple graphs that we're merging, and if there were some movement, there we go, in our absolute throttle position percentage that we're looking at there, things have changed. So we're not too concerned with what the data is on this vehicle, but I love the fact that we can do that, and we can play around then with moving these around as well. We can even change colors, change the size of the graphs. We can record it, we can review it, which means we could go back and watch the video, we can send that, heaps that we can do there. I noticed pattern switching, so we can actually grab these and we can change how we want to view them on the screen. Let's go and make them into graphs. Sorry, I was supposed to just be short pressing it. So we can change how we want to put them on the screen, depending how many we actually want there. And then if I long press, we can go through and we can choose. So maybe I just want to be looking at 2 on there, and we could go through and we've changed our view there. And then we can also play around again with what we're wanting to do there. We could grab one to take it up, we can then put it back down. We could change the scales that we've got going here, or we could set our own custom scale, which I find can be very useful sometimes if you're focusing on a very small window of, say, fuel pressure. Then it's nice to be able to make your range very small as well. So that is a great feature that we've got going on there too. Reference sampling, so we can record some things that we could use as a good reference. You know, then we've got a good versus bad from when the thing is faulting versus not faulting. So there's plenty that we can do in this data section that, in all honesty, I feel like this is the leader now as far as being able to manipulate and utilize live data. There's so much that we can do here to make it a extremely useful tool. Okay, so back at the live data section here, and we're going to get into the scope area, but a couple of other things to point out. So if we wanted more screen real estate, if this giant screen wasn't enough for you, you know, easy things like we can move that around. I didn't mention before, but another cool feature is the trigger function. So let's choose something and we can go to trigger settings here. Let's say we didn't want to see a data page straying into a certain range. We can set that range here. It'll automatically snapshot for us if the fault occurs. But what I was looking at here is, let's say we had a problem, we're looking at our live data. The next place to move is into on-vehicle component testing, which requires a scope, obviously built into this unit as part of the VCI. So a nice little place we can come here is we can just go to MaxiScope. That's going to automatically open it up for us, and they've made, again, just like live data, they've made some amazing advancements in their scope that means this thing is super capable now. So in this sort of process that I've done here, obviously we would probably be wanting to compare the two. So I'm seeing here what the actual module is seeing versus what the vehicle would be seeing if I was to connect in. Now, a cool feature they've added here, so we can come into here and let's say you're not too used to scopes, or we could come in and we can choose through a whole bunch of things, but let's go accelerator, pedal position sensor, goes through it, gives you a bit of a talk about, okay, how would we connect to a sensor like that? Why would we be doing it? What do we expect to see? It sets the scope up then, so it's automatically changed my ranges if you weren't that into being able to set your own time bases and voltage scales, and gives you a bit of an example of the kind of thing you'd expect to see. Obviously, if I was back probed into the vehicle, then I could press this and we could sit here and we could compare what the module's seeing versus what we're seeing. Just so I can run through the scope in a bit more detail, so easily we can swipe across like that, make it take up full screen. So they've made some great additions, like I said, to this scope. Let's just go through a couple of the menus here. So we are starting to build a bit of a library now, so obviously you can put your own things in here, but there is a bit of a waveform library that's building up. So let's say, for instance, in this case, you know, we're looking at a VVT solenoid. We could load that as a reference waveform, and we could have that ready for us to utilize here. Or we could open it in the scope as well. So reference waveform, that's something to mention as well. You can basically put a ghost waveform on there, being a reference waveform, so then you could be connected onto yours. You could see what is on your screen versus, you know, live while running. This reference waveform would stay there for you to be able to compare to. Some other interesting things in here, so windows, we can change if you perhaps wanted to see the different channels on different scope windows. That's something you can do. We have a waveform generator in here, so if you wanted to literally feed a signal into something to see if it was working, you know, if I hypothetically give a vehicle a MAF reading of a certain hertz, does that then fix the fuel trims I was chasing? You know, odd things like that we can do. Changing startup settings, so where it loads up is where it was. And they're getting into some really advanced stuff now. So we've got math channels here. You know, this is advanced scope stuff that it gives you the ability to do now on this scope. So it is a top level oscilloscope now, I'd say, with, you know, a bunch of different things that we can get into. They've made navigating it easy. They've made, you know, choosing probes and all these kinds of things, low pass filtering. So while we're not here to do a scope course, course, this is definitely a very usable scope and very mobile. I quite like the fact that, you know, I'm already there, I'm already connected into the vehicle. We may as well do it, and then we can just jump straight back over to our diag and continue where we are. So we're trying to keep it all in one unit. Back out at the main home screen now. Now, something that has to be discussed is Remote Expert. So when we're talking modern capabilities of a tool, this is the new way that things are done. Let's say that we needed to program a module, we needed to do an ADAS calibration, these kinds of things. So this gives us the ability to connect to service providers, so we can tell them about what problem we have or what thing we need done to the vehicle, that, you know, perhaps it needs an OE tool to be able to do that, and we can go in there. And the main thing is we're starting to see some providers here. So you'll see, you know, there's ones that have done thousands versus hundreds. We've got Australia, Portugal, New Zealand. So the list is now growing. This is a useful tool now that people are utilizing. This allows them to essentially connect in, use your tool to then be able to go through the vehicle, and they are able to then utilize either their knowledge to go through and kind of take over your tool, or they may also be piggybacking in other diagnostic equipment to help them get through some functions that may need doing. So this is definitely the new way of doing some things. There's no way that you can know how to do every process or have the available things to do it, but this works as a medium to get you to the right person, even if they're on the other side of the country, to do the job for you. So one function that I've been pretty keen to try out is the new AI assistant. So that's something pretty new to a scan tool, the first that I've seen to incorporate this. So let's give him a little bit of a run through the paces. Hey Max.
Hi.
Open screen recording. Okay, so that's something basic, just so we can get the screen recording. So obviously anything that is a button that we can press is very easy for him. You know, another example, hey Max.
Hi.
Open PDF reports. And so we can go into our reports that we have. There's the glow freeze I did, and we can obviously email them through, that kind of thing. So those are easy things. I've been playing around with them for a little bit now, and something that's been really helpful is that they've got this skills center over here. So they understand that this is a new thing, and it's going to take a bit of time to learn how to utilize it properly. So there's plenty of stuff that we can go in here. There's even a bit of a full demo that you can go in here with the BMW one. But what's really helpful is they give you these prompts to try out, essentially, to give you some ideas. So before we get into vehicle type things, as I said, anything that is on the application, that's basic, and you're always going to get a hit, because it knows how to get into them. Whereas obviously when we get into vehicle specific stuff, they call things different things on different manufacturers. So it may take a little bit of manufacturer knowledge to know, what they call fuel rail pressure may be called something completely different on a Peugeot, that kind of thing. So let's play with a few of these. So when you're in the maintenance section, obviously there's hundreds of these. You're not trying to learn them, but it gives you a bit of an idea if you wanted to sort of look through there of things that you may be thinking about. So let's go into this Ford Everest that we've been on. Hey Max.
Hi.
Show reductant level.
The following functions have been found for you. 1 reductant.
Hey Max.
2 reductant high.
1.
Executing reductant tank level.
Okay, and I've got my reductant tank level there, so that's got me into the reductant control module, actually, which, that is helpful. Sometimes when you're looking for something, there's 50 modules, we may not know what module to go in, and that's painful going in and out, that kind of thing. Nice that he also showed me the different PIDs that I may be looking for, because I know that there's more that I can look at. Interestingly, while I've done this search via Max, I cannot choose any of them. So I found that I have to get out of a function. I could have pressed anything there and then get back into live data if I did want to search for those other ones that he had picked for me that I know that I should be able to find. And at least with the search function, that's pretty easy. So I feel like that's something that surely, as Autel goes through, they'll probably fix that up. I think it would be nice to be able to not have to go back and then get into this, but that's really cool that he's found me them. So just by searching them, I can now see, okay, how many liters is in there as well. And obviously we got something pretty funky going on with the level sensors there. This car has a fault by the look of it, so I'm not going to go into the diag, but that was really cool how it got me into that module. One that I've become quite familiar with now, so when I'm doing my logbooks after servicing, so I'll usually go, hey Max,
Hi.
do oil reset.
Executing oil reset, hot function.
Now in this case, it's a manual oil reset, so it gets us to the area, and then we would have to go in to be able to see it. It's not a function itself, but again, it gets you there. And if that wasn't a hot function, it would take me to the right module so that we can know if there's something there. Something interesting I found as well is maybe you just want to know like what resets are available. You've just put in a component. There's so many modules on this network. Do I have a calibration that I need to perform on that thing? And I've found we can just go, hey Max,
Hi.
reset. So if anything, I'm intentionally not giving him much information here, right? And then he's gone through and he's showed me all these resets that are available on this car. So, if I'd just done something, it would be reasonable that I'd try and find it in here. So he's gone and searched a whole bunch of things for me. So I think it is a pretty cool feature that is going to take a bit of massaging. It is the first that I've seen. It's worked pretty good in the workshop environment, so even with the radio going, and there's no learning of my voice that it has to do or any of these kinds of things. I've found that I actually am starting to use it, particularly when you're covered in oil, or when you've got the gloves and oil. Sometimes on touch screens that may not work quite well. I find this touch screen does work very well, but as you get dirtier and messier, touch screens aren't the best, and to be able to talk while you're not putting your tools down and stuff like that, or while the hoist is going down, it actually is working better than I thought it would. Another cool feature, I think, particularly with being able to analyze data, is the live data fusion. So we may have data in different modules that we want to see, so we can go and get things from different modules. You may be looking at something in the transmission that you want to be seeing what's going on with the EGR at the same time. So we'll just go and grab a few items, just random ones for now, just to let you see what's going on. We can save it, or we can preview, actually go into it so that we can see it. And it's going to create a group. So just like our groups before, where we can go and edit those groups and keep them, we can play around with them. And you can save them. There might be something even commonly that you're seeing, and so as you saw, we can put them in as if they were in the same module then, and we're able to graph them, do everything we would be able to do with data. So I think that is a really cool feature. So I've brought up another vehicle now, just so I can show you something cool, the Graphical diagnostics. So I've seen this on a few vehicles now, this being an F32 chassis BMW. I'm going to go to intake. There was exhaust there as well. I've even seen this back on. It was a GD Honda Jazz, so it's not just your late model stuff, but when they've got it, I think this is a super cool feature, one of the coolest features of the Ultra S2. So we're taking live data. If I give it a bit of a rev, this is live data from the vehicle, and we're putting it graphically. So later model vehicles particularly, you know, it's difficult to look at all these data PIDs and try to work out how it's all correlating. You know, a diesel with a DPF, low and high pressure EGR, AdBlue system, there's a lot going on, and putting it in this graphic, you know, very Tesla-esque of how they do their stuff. I think this is going to start being the way that we need to be consuming data to make heads or tails of it. Autel also lets you go into your active tests here, so if we had some tests, the electric throttle valve, it's just not going to let me unless the engine was off. The engine's on at the moment, but it's going to tell me we can't do it. But you get the idea. If we were to do things like that, we'd be able to watch them move. It even chooses, you know, what should have moved at that point, and we're able to go and select what data PIDs we want. So I think that is super cool. While we're testing things out, so something, as I said, I've been doing a lot with the servicing. Hey Max.
Hi.
Reset CBS. Now you might have just done some brakes or whatever, you know, so yes, we know that we should say condition-based servicing, so it's a little bit BMW, and you'd need to know that, not just saying do oil reset, or you probably won't be able to get that. But we've got here, and we didn't have to go through choosing it through menus, and we can now go through and do our resets like normal. So pretty cool.
So there you go, that covers a few of the features that the S2 brings to us. Such as the depth of this tool though, you know, there definitely are some others, but we can't be here for half an hour. I'm still finding menus that I'm going into and going, wow, that is something new, and that's something that is built to help me as a technician. So I really think that Autel has had a really good long think about what they can bring to the scan tool world. We're used to the same old from a lot of other scan tools, and it's great to see that we're kind of pushing the boundaries of what a scan tool could look like going forward. So I really do think this is the start of the new wave of where scan tools are going to be heading. You know, things like graphical diagnosis, the AI assistant, these kinds of things that are going to help us to be able to analyze data better and be able to capture, store. You know, it's getting too complex to just be looking at a data stream of numbers there. So whatever the tool can do to make that easier, I think Autel's definitely going in the right steps there, and I have really enjoyed my time with the S2. Keep a look out for it as it's due to be released, and it's definitely something that I'd recommend having a go at yourself. It does suit a really wide variety of workshops, and I think it can make a place as the flagship tool that may be supported by one or two others depending on what you work on, but as far as an anchor, I think this is a great tool to have.